From Los Angeles and Nashville, get ready to go behind the scenes with Entertainment Dudes. What happens when you pair a director, a voice actor in a world, and some of the most interesting people in entertainment? You're about to find out.
Let's get started.
Excellent.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of Entertainment Dudes. We are, as always, thrilled that you have joined us, whatever platform you have decided to join us on.
Be on Spotify if you want. Spotify, YouTube, we're on all of them.
Cam, if we try doing this, picture the year 330.
2330.
This is
episode 5,422,000.
Thank you. So glad you...
voiceover dude. We lost our final audience member when our parents...
Painful.
My mom died, so we lost our last audience member.
Hey, well, we're excited finally for the last 3 weeks during the holiday season. You had to just watch the two of us, and maybe, that's exciting for some of you. And for other people, maybe not so excited. Like, you're bored and you want to see some other incredible people.
That streak is over.
That streak is over because now we have a number of incredible interviews coming up for you. And today is one of those we're excited to launch off on. And this is Adam Jones. If you don't know who he is, you should, because he's amazing. He's a director, and he's done a lot of commercials. He's done tons of webcasts, a web series, and he's also recently done a feature. And yes, it's a documentary feature called Fish and Men. I had an opportunity to watch that. It was really, really good, especially it hits home to me. He's from New Hampshire. Oh, there we go. And we're going to bring him in. I love how you just like to throw them into the fire. Yep, Adam, hello, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Entertainment Dudes.
Yes, Entertainment. Yeah, so first of all, the space that you're in, you were just sharing us with, this is your garage. And this is kind of, when you're creative you're creative all around, you're like, he's got to make his own space here. So that's what we're looking at now. New TV, looking good.
This is my maiden podcast from the new man cave. So how are the acoustics?
Feel honored.
Yeah.
Acoustics okay?
Nice and poppy. It's got a really good echoey ring to it. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Play some opera in there. Yes.
Yeah. Can you sing? That's actually what we were going to have you do on the show today. We're just going to have you sing. We've got 30 minutes. Go. So, really, really excited, director, having another director on who's also, I know you and I were talking the other day about what's the correct path a director takes in order to become a director. And mine had said when I was in Nashville, I kind of did everything in order the industry is small, and I had not focused on a specific target. And I know that you were talking, you said, I knew that once I started, you started as a PA. Right?
Correct.
And for a Walmart commercial, I think it was?
That's right. Directed by the great Albert Maysles, selling his soul for Walmart.
And you were selling your soul for $75 a day as a PA.
No, that was my first one. That was free.
Oh, freebie. Thank you, Walmart. So you get
that. I tell all the youngsters is if you want to get a leg in or a finger or a foot in the door or whatever, just offer to work for free. If you're cool, they'll call you back and offer you $50 next time,
Yeah, that's the same for mine. Mine was my first job. I was a PA, and it was a 15-hour shoot overnight, and it was 6 degrees. And I was outside all night, and it was free.
You got paid in exposure to the elements.
Exposure. I got paid in all kinds of exposure I didn't want. Yeah, I think that's it. That's the hunger right inside, and it's funny. My wife and I are talking about, like, sometimes you're like, where did all my money go? And I think I was like, actually, we just shot that project, and we shot this one. We've done a number of our own films on the side, or bought new gear and all the time. So it's like, what do you do with your free time? I still create the very thing I get paid for in my regular job. It's like, it's what you love. So. Okay, so then after you were a PA, and because you could lift stuff, like you got brought into the art department, right? Tell me a little bit about that transition and what you learned from being in the art department.
I think the art department is a great way to sort of see what the camera sees and see how you can, sort of fake things realistically, and really start to have to articulate what it is that you want to do to a space, or how you communicate with your crew or a director or a DP or even costume. Everybody really, it's to me, it's like, sure, you could come up through Grip Electric, you could come up through lots of different ways on a film set. These are just on film set paths. There's other paths to directing, I'm sure, but art department, I just loved it because it's never the same. It's always something different. And I was doing it in Texas, where we don't have prop shops, so as the jobs would get bigger and the needs for a certain set, whether it be period or something like that, got more specific, you had to know individual vendors and people and that guy with the cool truck. And so if you kind of had to, whereas if you're in your neck of the woods over there in Hollywood, you just go to Warner and go to the 1920s kitchen section and get a 1920s kitchen.
Or 1921 or 22,
whichever. Yeah, exactly. There's subtle differences, but right. So I just like the resourcefulness that it kind of required, as well as there's sort of you learn a little bit of construction, you learn a little bit of special effects, you learn a little bit of picture vehicle stuff, and everything sort of, I thought, just kind of contributed to a real good foundation of what when I realized I wanted to start directing. I love the art department. Every job I'm on now, I always very, very respectfully refer to my art department as art dogs. And then some once in a while, they'll be like, "Did you just call me a dog?" And I'm like, "Oh wait, time out. It's like, this is meant that I too am an art dog, because you can take the boy out of the art department, but you can never take the art department out of the boy." And then it's like high fives, and then they're my best friends, and then and then they hate me. No, I'm just kidding.
You've referred to filmmaking being a team. Has that experience in all those different areas helped you in your job now?
Oh, for sure. I say like filmmaking is a team sport, for sure. And how many times have you had a young filmmaker, somebody come up to you and be like, "Hey, I want to do what you do someday. What's the best thing?" Like my daughter, for example, right now, 18 years old, applying to film school. We're going through the age-old debate of, to film school or just start.
Or not to, or just start doing it.
Yeah, just start doing it. Or here's $100,000 that we'd have spent on your school. Go make something. Which that's
Dad.
I get 20 years to pay that back. But yeah, I think the team part of it is, I was an athlete up through college, and so I think that there's a little bit of a competitive nature to it. Maybe not so much trying to certainly competing for work. As a director, I have to beat out 2 to 3 other directors for every single job I get. It's like a ground zero pitch where people are, comparing your ideas, also looking at your work, also looking at the numbers, seeing if you can hit their, if they can afford your approach to it. But going back to the team thing, I think that element of competition in terms of like, maybe the film set is a little bit like a playing field, where you're just going to go out there and kick ass that morning, whatever you got to do, or, but also the people that I work with. I like to have a very chill, fun, but focused vibe on my film sets. And when I'm around a little ripple in that, it's very like, I was just doing something where my assistant director was kind of like, this is not necessary, the way you're sort of stressing and the tone you're setting, or my tone that you're kind of interrupting to others, the way that you're communicating with people that are all working for us, but for me, so I just, I think assembling a team and at the very least, going back to young filmmakers and like, how do I start? How do I make something? What do I do? I always say, try and put together a little posse of merry pranksters that you guys share. Yeah, a film, a skill set collectively. Which for me it was director, writer, performer, editor, producer. But there were only 4 of us because we could do more than one. So there were 4 people, and we 4 could do anything. You know what I mean? We felt like if we were going to go out there and march into battle or onto the playing field, as long as we 4 are there, you know. And I feel that way sometimes when I go on a film set with like a DP that I know and trust and think is incredible, you know. I mean, if all the electricity went out but we could still roll, if everybody, you know, got COVID and left, if me and him or her are still there, we could do anything. We can still shoot this thing. You know, we'll figure it out. So that's kind of that competitive invincibility vibe that I think, you know, sports and team it's a good metaphor or motivator for me. Probably not for every director, but.
I like that. I think one of the things that it's important when you're doing films and working together on set is you're always going to face a problem. Have you ever been on a set when there wasn't a challenge or no. You know, a location that closed or something your actor wasn't, you know, came late, yeah. You know, who knows?
Was it, I'm going to try and quote Orson Welles right now, who said, directing is nothing but managing a series of crises.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm probably paraphrasing wrong, but you get the idea.
Yeah, it's 100% that. And I think knowing your team, why is it so hard to break into a team or an industry? Because there's a certain amount, especially if you have big budgets, you're working with a lot of money, you have clients that have to be pleased, there's expectations. And so I need to know that the people I'm working with, I can trust if I have to assign something, they can take care of it. If the camera, something happens with the camera, the media, something, you know, there's a problem, I know that like, okay, cool, he's got this, she's got this. I can trust my producer. You know, the permits, where are they? They're not here. She makes a couple of phone calls, you know, whatever it is, like that family that you build, that camaraderie with the team, I think it starts from the top. Like you said, the producer, director, the level, that expectation that you set, you know, and then that trickles down.
The tone that you set.
Tone. Yeah. And it's a tone for the picture and a tone for the set itself. Exactly. And I think most people don't recognize that. Like as the director, the way that you walk onto set and the very first time they see your face, you're setting the tone for what that entire production is going to be like.
Right.
It comes from the top. And I love that you said that. It's like the team approach, because they are working for you to help you fulfill your vision.
Sure.
And appreciating each of those team members really creates that effective energy and power that it takes to deliver something that's just very, very hard to do. Very hard.
And it's not going back to team. It's not unlike a coach. It's not unlike a coach wanting to win a game, you know, and I think of the people that, like the guy who made me want to be a director is this commercial director out of I was in Texas at the time, and his name is Jeff Bednarz. And I've told this story to many people. I hope that I get to talk to Jeff again someday. He's still doing it, but he was one person having, you know, come up through the art department. At that point, I had probably worked with 400 different commercial and music video directors and seen all these different approaches to how they capture, you know, what at the end of the day is just the image that you capture or the footage that you get your goal, and you'll just lay waste to anything in your way. Well, I mean, there's lots of really successful big shot directors where, you know, that's exactly what they do. Or at least, you know, you've heard stories. But this guy, Jeff, he just made it look so fun. He treated people so well. He did the coolest shit. He was working with the coolest DPs that are, you know, coming from all over the world, doing things with film cameras I'd never seen before. And I was just like, I want to do what he does, you know? And it was all, I felt like as one of his players, I would run through a brick wall for that dude.
Right.
And there were moments in the art department where he would be like, you know, I remember one time we were shooting a Bud Light commercial, big budget, 300 extras. It was supposed to be like a Tejano band, but they were punk. And so the whole front was like this mosh pit we created, had a full-on stage set with trusses and union guys and just rock lights. And it was a big budget. He brought the big budgets too. That was another thing that was cool. Budget. And he was having trouble getting people motivated down there. And the new Pearl Jam record had just come out. Anyway, I was like, I know the song. I got it. Run back to my truck. And I put on Animal by Pearl Jam. He played Animal by Pearl Jam all fucking day. And the people were going nuts and people were crowd surfing. And I felt like, I'm in the art department, but like I helped.
You did. You had an idea that really helped it happen.
it was spot on, man. It was like, talk about the right tone, but I'm not saying everybody likes Pearl Jam. It was a different time.
Pearl Jam's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty exciting. Even I like the fact that you never really know who you motivate, and you never know whose life you change. I remember, I'll flash back real quick, but I was in college, and I remember I was going to class one day, and before I got there, I was like, I really don't feel like I'm doing anything for anybody. Like, I'm just doing my thing, I'm doing my homework, but I don't feel like I'm inspired. I'm not doing anything outside of myself. And I walked to my mailbox. I opened the mail, and there's a letter in there, and it's from some girl. I never know who it was. And she said, you don't know me, but every day, you just treat me so well. You say hi, you greet me. And I don't know if she works somewhere. I know she was at a restaurant, but she said, you have no idea how much you've impacted my life. She's like, I really was at a dark place, and just you speaking to me so kindly really helped get me out of that place. Like, you have no idea what people are going through. So when you have an opportunity to encourage, motivate, inspire people on your team, everyone I think is looking for a purpose. They want to work at something that matters. Yeah. And if you as a director, even as a person, give them that ability, you yourself inspire them to work towards something, I think you can have a successful set no matter what kind of challenge you face. Like you said, you're willing to run through a brick wall. How many times did you have to go over on a production? And you already know that's at the end of the day, they're tired, the muscles are tired, they want to go home. They got their pay. I got my 800, my 1,000, whatever it is a day. I want to go home. But then we're like, hey, we need this one thing. I need you to do this. But if you've been that type of director, I think that they want to do it for. They'll like, yeah, no problem. Like, let's do it. Let's get it across the finish line. Yeah. So, yeah, you never know. I always like to think about that in terms of people. They're not just a gaffer. It's not just a grip. It's not just a PA. They're people who ultimately are helping to fulfill a vision and to inspire. So
that's a mouthful, like how you can inspire people. I was going to get off on a tangent about how in production today, so much of that is actually happening through emails, just because the nature of how prep has changed, especially after COVID. But what I wanted to say first in response to that is you could also say the same thing through the other side of the looking glass, meaning I also expect my crew or the people that are working with me to have the same level of urgency that I do, to have the same level of focus, place the same importance on the work we're doing right now. Also, sometimes I think about it, and this is where it gets a little tricky, because especially what's going on in the industry with safety protocols and rust and all that stuff is, how it was when I paid my dues, and we don't have to go talk about rust right now, but like, we've been shooting guns a lot on film sets for over 100 years. What is it about you that can't do your job? You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, I feel like as long as you're sharing that focus and that urgency with me, we're gonna do just fine. Otherwise, we'll just get through it, and I'll never hire you again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, every set is an audition. I think it's like you're auditioning yourself. Like sometimes I like to work on other directors' sets. I still do it today. Yeah. And I'll work as a grip. I'll work as something else. And because sometimes I'm looking for someone else I want to work with. And I remember in one production I needed a gaffer, and one of my friends said, "This guy is really good." And so I said, "Can I get on your set and I'll just work with you?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, come on." So I was gripping. And I was working, and I was working under this gaffer because I wanted to see how it was. And at one point in the middle of the day, he turned around and he just ripped me. I just happened to show up at the time, and I picked up something. He's like, "We're so far behind," blah, 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 and he just laid into me. and all of a sudden, my buddy, who's the DP, comes over and he says, "Dude, he's a director." He's like, you just ripped him, and I ended up not working with him. Yeah. And because how you treat the people that work for you. I get it, long days, stuff happens, but it's just like, it's an audition. You never know who's with you. You don't know who's there.
No, and especially in commercials, very different from TV and movies. We jumpstart a job from scratch, prep it in 1 to 2 weeks, shoot it in 1 to 2 days, and then we're gone. I'm in town and out of town. I'm working with local folks and some people who are coming in, and we assemble this team and we do this thing with specialized, job titles and everything. And then it's over. Right. It's like a little miniature lifetime. That's how I look at these things sometimes, because sometimes they're so grueling. And then when you're done, you're so elated, and you just like, I remember like I was just shooting in LA, and the martini shot was, you know, the last setup of the day is me dropping 1,000 tacos on a guy. And it's like I had one take to do a taco drop that we're going to shoot at 96 frames per second, you know, so that it looks like it's raining tacos and this guy is in heaven.
Is that the Super Bowl spot?
No.
Right? Oh, okay. This is a different spot.
Yeah. This is for a credit.
Okay. I know that you have your first Super Bowl spot coming up in a few days.
That's right. Yeah. I'm pretty psyched. It was a long time coming, as people may know, even if you're not a commercial director for your job, that the commercials are during the Super Bowl. It's like kind of the Academy Awards. I mean, actually that implies that they're all amazing, which is not always true, right? Like, but it's also a place where if commercials get rated and often ridiculed. So, you know, to have a chance to do one finally.
Oh, I think you froze.
Uh-oh.
We may have lost. I don't know if we lost him or not.
I don't know. I hope not.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. No, not a problem. We'll chop it out. It happens to us.
Yeah.
You know, there's times we freeze.
Oh my God, you had me.
Oh, look, Cam's definitely frozen. That's a guy. I'm frozen too, Cam. Where's my blanket? It's 60 degrees here in LA. I'm freezing.
I know. What are you wearing? A bombardier jacket over there?
Yeah, it looks like this is actually just a blanket.
A sheep.
I was gonna say, I was like, it's so cold in LA. It's 65 degrees. I'm freezing. Yeah. So, okay, I'll tee us up and then we can get. Will you full screen me, Cam? Then?
Yes, I will full screen you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So the taco one, that's not the Super Bowl commercial. You actually have a Super Bowl spot that's coming out this year, right?
Yeah. It's for Telemundo's broadcast of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. And because NBC has the broadcast of the Super Bowl, they're owned by Universal, who also owns Telemundo. Telemundo got a 30 and a 15 during one pregame, one during game. And so they came to my agent and looked at, I have kind of a wheelhouse in working with comedy and sports, which are two of my favorite things. So I'm a lucky guy when those kind of vocations and avocations collide. And this was the spot is with the guy. His name is Andres Cantor, who is, if you don't know him by name, he's famous for saying, "Goal!"
for 45 minutes straight with no breath.
He's the voice of the Spanish-speaking world for football. And so it was an idea of sort of crossing over America's biggest football event with European football and this guy. And it was, it's a fun spot where it's just like he starts it and literally one syllable spreads across America. So we were doing fun stuff with like the camera movement and lots and lots of people and lots of setups and lots of action and movement and energy. So I think it came out really good. And I don't know where in the lineup it's going to play, but I'm having a Super Bowl party. If you guys want to come to the Bat Cave and have a couple beers and watch it.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? You're up in Oregon, right?
Yeah, Portland.
Oh yeah. Okay. I was
Very
like, I'm
cool.
gonna take my. Can I drive one of your Ferraris?
Yeah, that's right. For all my friends.
So
Now, comedy, that's an area I know Jason loves. I love that area, and we both kind of work naturally in that area. But I've been in arguments with other editors and directors. They're like, comedy is so hard. It's so hard to do. And I'm like, why? Can you tell me why you love comedy, and do you deal with people that think comedy is a hard thing to do as well?
Right. I mean, I guess the implication you're saying there is that comedy is hard to do on film.
Right.
Is that because we can sit here and we can make ourselves laugh all day?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a mouthful. On the one hand, I kind of agree with you. I'm like,
Okay.
it's either funny or it isn't. Like,
Right.
it makes me laugh or it doesn't. But you also have to be thinking 20 steps ahead, and you also have to be thinking outside your own self. And you really, really have to constantly, remind yourself, like, if a viewer comes to this in a vacuum, how's it going to not just affect them, but kind of happen to them?
Right. No inside jokes. No. Yeah.
No.
It has to be universal.
And sometimes, you have, like, I don't know how many times I've failed to get, a little bit better at not failing so much, not getting a laugh or whatever you're after. And certainly in commercials, I have to execute the script I've been given. But like for example, I have a commercial on my site for Summer's Eve, and the whole joke is, and it was actually something I shot spec, and I saw the script and I'm like, this is hilarious. This is going to be funny. It's like, sometimes I say it's a ground rule double, meaning it's like you're already at second base when you start. You just got to bring it home. At least you're starting from a good place, like that new rule for extra innings. But that's a baseball conversation. We can table
which I could talk about all day.
All day, yeah. But so the whole idea for the spot is, like, the guy's like in the shower, his wife's also in the bathroom doing her nails or her makeup, and he accidentally showers with Summer's Eve.
I've seen that. Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we spend the next 27 seconds trying to remasculinify himself. So
Yes. That's so stuck out. I was on the floor.
Yeah. So all the things that he does to do that were my ideas. Were things that I quote unquote wrote. Like mowing the lawn in a gladiator helmet, which I have done. I have literally.
Because why not?
Because I had a gladiator helmet from a shoot, and it was like the real thing in metal. And I'm like,
that's awesome.
And mowing the lawn, and then it made it into a commercial. So, all the things that he does, he pulls a car, with the rope with his teeth. He works the speed bag. He does a belly flop in the pool. All these things. And anyway, it was an interesting kind of those were things that I thought were funny, but it was also making fun of men, of dudeness. And I felt uniquely qualified, but also like because I was making fun of myself and the stupid crap that I do, that I know that my wife would still think is funny. Then that spot in particular, when it came out, first of all, I shot it spec. And
what's spec mean, just for the audience that doesn't know?
Oh, sure. That means that you just make a commercial for your reel to get more work. It's not a real commercial. So you try and mimic a commercial well enough that a person needing to hire a director for commercials, which is usually agency creative directors, will look at this spot and a collection of other spots that you've done and decide it's good enough to bid you on a job that could get you more work. So it's a spot that it's a commercial that masquerades as a real commercial, but to do it right, you have to do certain things right. And you also can't like have certain tells, like, put YouTube music underneath it or something that nobody's going to believe you bought for it. So I shot it spec, and then the agency saw it. The one that gave me this script, because it was like from a friend who just like had a script that got thrown away, and I'm like, this is hilarious, I'll do this. And then he's like, well, as long as you can show it to us after. So, and I said, okay, I'll show it to you after, but you guys can't have any kind of say in how I cut it or what I do to it. It's not like, this isn't going to just become yours again.
Yeah, because it's spec, and you're like, I'm doing this for me because I do it how I'd want to show my future clients. Right.
With my own $20,000 too.
Ooh, right.
So, and all the favors of crew that I'm pulling in to execute. Yep. So I show it to them after, and they freak out. They're like, this is awesome. And then they show it to Summer's Eve, and Summer's Eve loves it. And then the one thing they also stipulated is that I would not be compensated if it went to air. And I was like, that never happens. It's fine.
Oh no.
Oh,
Oh no.
So, but at least my editor buddy who cut it for me for nothing got to recut it for air, and he made like got a gig out of it and everything. But all I got was a great spot for my reel. And then a whole bunch of press started happening because this commercial was like turning back the clock on toxic masculinity and perpetuating, dumb man behavior. Like,
Oh, come on. Come on, it's freaking funny.
So you would see, like, it got written up by HuffPost Women. It got written up on Grinder. It got written up on Red State. And those were the Grinder and Red State loved it, by the way. HuffPost Women hated it. Vice wrote it, hated it. Like the other thing in that commercial is that she goes, the woman in the commercial says to him, she refers to the V as a V. She refers to it as a V. She doesn't do this, but you understand. So the reference to female genitalia as V in a TV commercial was groundbreaking, earth shattering. Like, people were freaking out. Like, you can't call it that in a commercial. And so anyway, it was funny how the funny got pulled through this sort of political, on social media, which was, a little bit different back then. This is probably 10 years ago. But
yeah.
Even back then, that's crazy. How much?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of comedians that are not working colleges anymore because of that same issue.
Sure.
They used to be very popular on college campuses, and they refuse to now.
I think what makes comedy funny is poking fun at tropes, at stereotypes, at
Right.
our own faults and failures, at misgivings, or and then amplifying and exaggerating the absurd when it's already absurd.
Yes.
That's funny. And so how do you do comedy if people are getting hurt or offended? Like, I think most comedians I watched growing up, there's always an element of offense in something in it, because it's poking fun at our flaws. And
Right.
yeah, that's always painful. But I think at the same time, for me, coming away from that, I love being able to laugh at myself. Like, when I'm stupid or I mess up, I lean into it and just make fun of myself, because
I love being able to laugh at Jason as well. So.
Yes, thanks, Cam. Yes. Anytime I need a good joke, I just look at Cam's face. I feel great. I just start laughing.
Well, I mean, you got to admit, though, comedy's changed forever.
Yes, that's true.
It's a different landscape now, and I mean, you can take your pick of the people who have fallen. Even if you take away Bill Cosby, I was just thinking of what's his name, Kramer. What's his name? Or like, because my daughter's like in love watching every Seinfeld right now. I'll just watch. Yeah. I'm like, you should watch his Fall from Grace. You're gonna stop watching this show. But
Michael Richards.
Richards.
Yeah.
But not just because I just think, like, I did back in around 2008 to 2011, I did a web series called The Stay-at-Home Dad. And that was with those 4 guys I was telling you about earlier. Like, we just went out and made this thing because this one dude was a writer and a comedian. He had toured doing stand-up for years and Broadway. And so he just didn't give a fuck. Like, he was just relentless with stereotyping type jokes. And so we came up with a character that we could celebrate that, which was meant to be this was, remember, it was like late aughts. So it was a guy who was a former pit trader who got replaced whose job got replaced by a computer. So now he is emasculated and has to go home and watch the 3 kids while his wife brings home the bacon. And this particular job of, what they do in the pit trading, which is a lost art these days or whatever, it's just not really existent anymore. It was one of the most toxically masculine settings you could come from. So then we throw this guy into politically correct Manhattan scenes. I was living in New York at the time. And it was just,
I love the one with the gym teacher.
Oh, did you watch a few?
Yeah, I watched them. Dude, that was hilarious. The gym teachers, he's like, your kid has been pushing children. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, did he pimp slap him? And he's like, no, he made a fist and punched him hard. He's like, excellent. And then, and in the end, the gym teacher starts running after him to try to beat him up because he takes his hat. I love that.
we did like 29 episodes of those, and we were like number 1, number 2 on ComedyCentral.com with that silly series for a while, and we got George Wendt to be in an episode, and we got Tony Hawk to be in an episode, and in fact, the guy you just referred to, the Korean gentleman who played that guy in that episode,
right?
Easter egg. He plays Mike Yamagita in Fargo, the famous vestigial organs scene, meaning the Coens could have made the movie without the scene of Frances McDormand meeting that old friend in the hotel where he lies and says that his wife has died of cancer. Remember?
Yeah.
Anyway.
And that was him?
That was him. Yeah, an actor.
That's crazy.
That's just like a Coen Easter egg for film nerds out there.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, well, that was funny, and I don't know, how do you tiptoe now? How do you navigate that scene now? Like, if you're making pitches, you're doing commercials. I think with comedy, you're always going to upset somebody, but how do you approach that now when you're doing your directing?
I think Cam said earlier too, like one of the things that is always seems to be happening, like especially in commercials, like some sort of thing that's magical realism, some sort of thing that is really absurd. And then the way that I typically, especially when I write treatment after treatment, having to articulate this same thing is, but the performance is the opposite. The performance is naturalistic. The performance could even be deadpan and be funniest. So you offset the absurd thing, the magical realism absurdity, or the larger than life bit that's really going on with people acting kind of normal.
Right.
The other thing is, it's the same thing with like, having a straight man, which is another thing that I've had some success with is, like working with athletes. Now, athletes are non-actors.
Yeah.
I call them non-actors. They've done hundreds of commercials in front of cameras, but they're not actors.
Right.
And at the best, you'll get an athlete who's just willing to play and just willing to lean in it and F around and, see what happens. That's the garbage truck. Sorry.
No worries.
But then they'll also sort of fall into this rote performance because they've done it 100 times. I work with Dale Earnhardt, and even Deion Sanders kind of falls into the same delivery and the same character. It doesn't matter if he's commentating on a football game or selling Botox in my case.
Because why not have Deion Sanders sell Botox?
Yeah, we sold both. We did a Botox shoot. It was very difficult.
Yeah, injecting them in live commercial, that's hard.
Yeah. So I was telling you that because so what's fun to do, and I've gotten a chance to do it a couple of times, is like you make the athlete the straight guy and just let him like react kind of low key himself, and then just surround him with some kind of like psycho, hilarious, improvisational, comedic character thing and dynamic. And then that person just kind of works the body on the athlete the whole time. And the athlete's just,
just standing there. Right.
Even back to Andy Griffith. He was a comedian and he became the straight guy in that show.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing show.
Yeah. The other type of comedy, like I did a short film that did pretty well in festivals during COVID when all the festivals were canceled. And it's more like a dark comedy. It's more like celebrating, a marriage that has eaten itself alive over 40 years. And it was, we're trying to poke fun at long-term marital relationships, which the crew of folks that I made it with, like we all just happen to be married more than 20 years. So we felt uniquely qualified, but also we deserve to be able to say this stuff about marriage because we're living it and we're actually pretty successful in our marriages. All of us are.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so this was like, well, what if, what's the worst case scenario that could happen if you absolutely hated each other, but were stuck in your rut? And so to be darkly funny, I guess that's where things get even more subjective. A lot of people say comedy is so subjective, right? You know, but with dark comedy, you kind of just got to like take a swing, you know, and see if it connects.
See if it hits. And well, I think if some of the things there's like one thing I think is important in comedy is truths. Like there's certain truths that you can, and if you take that truth and you embed it into something like that, like a dark comedy, and you exaggerate it, poke at it, do whatever. That's where does it hit? It hits when you realize, like, oh yeah, I do that. You know, and I think that's why I always love those jokes or stories between men and women, how women see men, how men see women sometimes. Cause it's just, I'm like, oh gosh, I've done that. Or like, I'm like, oh my word, that's my wife. That's so funny. And everyone can be like, oh yeah, we know. Cause you know that, like, oh yeah, I know this.
Or it's not about the nail.
It's not about the nail. Did you ever see that one?
No.
Oh my gosh. Can't tell. It's so freaking do it quick.
Yeah. It's a guy's talking to his wife or girlfriend, and she's got this huge nail sticking out of her head. And she's like, just got this pain in my head all the time. And he's like, there's a nail. It's not about the nail.
The whole time he's like, are you really sure? Because I think if we take the nail out,
pull that out, then things would feel better. And
and then she's like, I just need you to. He's like, okay, I'm sorry, you're right. It must be terrible.
It must be
so
terrible.
Much pain
that
horrible.
You're feeling. Oh, thank you for understanding.
Yeah, thanks for understanding. He's like, oh, they go to kiss, and then the nail stabs him, and he's like, oh, the nail, and then so. And I laugh at it because, like, oh my gosh, how many times have we just communicated wrong or just crossed the wires? And it's just, there's comedic gold in those moments.
Oh yeah, for sure. And but at the same time, going back to what we were talking about before, you're often walking that tightrope of making fun of tropes and stereotypes that everybody can laugh at and hopefully laugh at themselves. But if you take it too far, it's misogyny.
Yeah. Or if you take it too far the other way, it's hurting somebody, or it's
just cruel. Yeah.
Well, then I think there's a risk. I think there's an inherent risk in doing it. Why do a lot of people, I think, just don't do it, or they steer away from it? Is because of that. If you go too far, I always say you like to dance on the line. Like, here's the line. I like to just ta 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 na 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 na. As long as you can do this, you're good. But the moment you're like,
but the line is moving.
And it's like it's like more like that jump rope thing, where the kids that do that snake on the ground, and you're like,
two hot air balloons.
Oh, that's crazy. So real quick, a segue. A hard segue here. You've been doing commercials. You've been, you get a script. You have a certain time period. You're executing. Here's what I need to done. This is the day I'm shooting. What made you decide to take on a documentary? Because that's completely the opposite. That's like hundreds of hours of footage, lots of people who aren't actors. Like, number one, let's talk about your doc. Number two, why the change, and what'd you learn during that process? Like, what did you learn, and what would you do differently?
Well, I think one of the big things I was dealing with, having been at that point in my life, this doc we started in 2015.
And this is called Fish and Men.
Fish and Men, yeah. And was, at that point, I had been directing TV commercials for 15 years, and I still would have trouble looking at myself in the mirror, calling myself a filmmaker. It's like, have you made films? Well, they're not technically films. They're little advert films that sell things, Once in a while, you do one really well that you're proud of and get a laugh or whatever. But I was like, I got to make something. Because we could go off on a tangent about like just your identity as a creative person, as a director. If you take this away from me, who am I looking in the mirror? What have I done? What's my mark on the wall or legacy in terms of all of this creative work that we're paid to do, or that I'm fortunate enough that I could, make a living doing. But what have I really made? And so I was like, all right, it's something that this subject matter found me through an old friend, a friend of my wife, actually. He was not a filmmaker and needed someone who knew how to do that. And so we kind of came together, and he had this very simple idea, asking the question of, well, if he was on the waterfront in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and he was going to the fishmonger over there to buy some fish, because the fishing boats were right over there. And Yet, strangely, the fish that was being sold from the fishmonger right there, while the boats were right there, were not from those boats over there, because those boats are sending all their fish to China, where it would be processed, packaged, frozen, refrozen, and then sent all around the world. And so we just started, asking more and more questions along those lines. And it was my first attempt at making a feature-length doc. I was doing it with one dude, no money, no plan, no editor. Neither of us edit.
It's exactly the opposite. It's so funny.
This
cracks me up.
Don't this is how not to make a film. And
however, by the results of it, you would not know.
But it's either going to beat you into a submission or you're going to beat it into submission. And that was literally what we did to finish it. And
6 years, right? Six years.
6 years, yeah, and about 300,000 of our own money. A slow bleed along the way. But yeah, still we're still paying for it. Actually, we still owe the accountants. So the subject matter wasn't something that I particularly like. I don't fish. I don't really cook. I eat fish. I'm not really. I don't consider myself like an environmentalist or an advocate, advocacy type filmmaker. In fact, that was one of the things that when we made it, because my partner on the film, the guy who found the concept and pitched it to me to help him, let's just say, is on the other side of the political spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And so we knew that. In fact, early on, it made for some whiskey fueled arguments between, I always knew it was coming, but like certain DPs and folks we would rope in, and it got pretty political at times, but it was something that we decided to just use to our advantage. And so we're trying to make something quote unquote fair and balanced. And we're not gonna drag this through, an agenda that, because we don't have the same agenda. So we really couldn't. But yeah, it was something that, looking back on it, I think as a filmmaker, well, now I can say I'm a filmmaker. So I got that going for me. And over the course of 6 years, I basically earned a PhD in doc filmmaking. At least, now I know how to do it, how not to do it. You can even see watching the film where, just ways that it got better over that time, the way we would set up for this, or we would cover that, or the camera person I had that time, because we just used whatever we had and whoever we had. And I just called in favors over and over and over and over. So it was always, if you look at the list of DPs at the end of the thing,
it's very long. It's very long. Yeah. If you look, you're like, man, they had like 20 DPs. They had like 40 audio guys. They had 7 editors. I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
it's $25 million budget for the biggest documentary ever.
Those are literally just lists of burnt bridges.
Yeah, the titles at the end were longer than the actual movie itself. So it was I was like, surely there's got to be like a mid credit scene or like a post credit scene. I keep waiting for it.
And please tell me you ended this with Finn.
I thought I heard every fish joke. I thought I heard every one.
Oh, there it was, Finn.
That would have been good, dude. That would have been good.
Director's cut. Right.
So director's cut.
I bet you're really excited to recut that and revisit it.
Yeah. We'll just replace the demise of Gloucester fishing community with Finn. Finn. Be like a nice little.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it was important to me. I'm from Maine, and I originally found out Adam, had been from New Hampshire, and I was like, well, I did some fishing. I worked out on there, and actually my sister's fiance, he was actually on a boat and recently, and was out fishing, and the waves are crazy, and they were even talking about we should probably go back. Like, it's bad, he's like, and the captains, do you want to stay? Like, we need money. and if we're going to stay afloat. So they literally risked life and limb to stay out there in the middle of the storm. The haul was pretty good, but it was crazy. And then when they were hauling up the nets, there was an accident. A wave came, it crushed his leg. He's actually going into surgery next week just because of the damage. And I think if that pressure had not been there, they probably would have gone back. They wouldn't have hauled that day. They would have just waited. But, I think it's that question that the captain has. Do we stay out and risk the life to get it? Because if we don't even know if we're going to be able to keep fishing. So I thought the conversation is really important. I thought it was really well executed. It was really balanced, and I enjoyed the sense of urgency that came from the film and a story that really was impacting people's lives. And you got that sense. And I thought it was pretty balanced in terms of even the way that you talk with the people who were in NOAA, and you showed that a lot of them cared about the fishermen, but they're also trying to think, how do we keep the industry alive and not completely wipe it out? Mm-hmm. So that fighting balance. And it's probably good that you guys were both on different sides of the spectrum, because what is the argument? The fishermen are saying we can't fish. We're going to run out of money. And the other side saying, well, there are no fish if you keep fishing too many of them. And then there's the money aspect that says fishing is wrong. Like, you shouldn't be fishing. And how many different people were involved in this conversation. So when I was watching the film, I really got a sense of that. Like, you really feel what they're going through. And it makes me, one thing it did do and has done since I watched the film is it's made me think, when I'm going to the store, where did this come from? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What else did you want from that movie? Like, literally, to me as a consumer, to go in there and to be considering, like, the other day I didn't bought it. I purposely bought fish that was from California, that had been caught here and was from here, when I had other options that were even cheaper. I think it was like $4 or $5 cheaper a pound. I still bought the other fish. That's because of that documentary. I was mindful of it. And so, I don't know, in terms of what you're trying to accomplish with it, at least one person, it had a positive impact. So thank you for sharing it. I'm glad you muscled through it, because it's a great film. So
I appreciate that. I do think that one of the things that, I was saying, what is the legacy? What is the mark on the wall? Well, when you set out to make a film, particularly any kind of film, but docs a lot of times, in terms of actually changing behavior, or actually in some cases, like there was a doc that came out, Kirby Dick directed, Invisible War, about rape in the military.
Oh gosh.
And that's a film that actually changed policy. Mm-hmm. So if you can make something that just makes the viewers remember 2 or 3 things, one of which is to ask where your fish came from, then that's definitely a win. That you probably, there are probably more successful docs that don't stick with people. And whenever you wake up the next morning, whether it was a feature, doc or narrative, when you say to your wife, or you think to yourself, God, that movie's really sticking with me. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's like the movie telling you it's not done with you, or it might even, like, it affected you, like you liked it more than you thought, because it got inside your bones, or it made you reconsider a worldview, or a character reminded you of, something about yourself or your mother or whatever, paging Dr. Freud,
Yeah, I like the ones that surprise you too, the ones that catch you off guard. Sometimes you go into it expecting something, this is going to be good, this is going to be this, and you're waiting for it. But then you watch something and you're just blindsided by, like, wow, it's just...
Okay, let's play a game. Tell me a movie that did that to you.
Well, recently it's actually a series, Arcane, on Netflix. Okay. It's an animated feature. It's an animated series. It's like 12 to 9 episodes. I had no expectations for that thing, and I was completely blindsided by how... Wow. I've watched it 3 times through now. The whole series. We're going for our 4th one right now.
How do you spell it?
Arcane. Arcane. Okay. It's based on League of Legends. It's based on a video game.
Oh, okay.
And the crazy part is the entire team, they said, we're going to create the film with Netflix. We're doing it in-house. They trained all the people, their actors, everyone, about the whole series, what it was, the backstory, why every character is important. And the entire team worked so closely to make sure that the story understood the legacy of what they were creating. And I was literally blown away, completely floored. And every single character in that story was important to the story, and it was an amazing character. From the small bit characters to the large overarching characters, and all of like the third time through, we can see all the lines, like the way that this person impacts this one in the third episode, and then in the sixth episode, and then the ninth episode. Like they literally thought everything through in that story, and they executed it to perfection.
Yeah.
It was one that just did it for me recently.
Arcane on Netflix.
Yep, amazing, just amazing.
What about you, Cam? Movie?
I'm a comedy guy. I mean, there's tons of things I like, but Jason and I were just talking about this. Is when the Orville came out, I thought it was going to be the worst show ever. From the previews, I thought, oh, the previews, and that's all they've got. This is going to suck. And I was pleasantly surprised when it came out, and just how well it was done. The comedy, well written. I mean, just by far my favorite non-Star Trek show. And the fact, Jason and I were just playing this. I was just showing it to him.
That movie is awesome.
The battle scene to Dolly Parton's 9 to 5. You know, it's just genius. You know, where does this stuff come from?
Who does that?
Who does
We
that?
do.
Exactly. And it's full of who does that. And they've tackled comedy, they've tackled drama, they've tackled social issues, they've tackled everything in it. And it's fun to just watch that show just weave through life and tackle different things and watch it grow.
Yeah. What about yours?
Well, I think my all-timer, guys, is the original Matrix. When I went in,
oh my gosh,
yes, oh gosh, yes.
And I forget what it was. What was it? 2000? I can't remember what year.
The first one, 96, right? 97.
96. And I just remember I saw that in Vail, Colorado on a ski trip, and I just was like in shock on the way out. It just was a bell ringer. I mean, if you guys are nodding your heads. So,
you can't.
Everybody was standing around going.
And people who hadn't seen the movie are like, "What are they doing?" You actually did that really, really well.
Well, I mean, how many film nerds went and did a deep dive on bullet cam, just that technology.
Oh yeah. We did that, and I love seeing the Nashville skyline on the top of the building. So we're in Nashville, so it's like, oh look, Nashville.
I didn't know that. Are you serious?
Yes, you can see. You can actually see KDF from the WKDF sign.
Nashville skyline was used in that?
And the Batman building, the Bell South Tower.
Yeah.
The two spires are cut off.
Really?
So it's just flat. But yeah. On the straight ahead shot where they're running toward the camera. Look in the background. It's Nashville.
It's Nashville.
Yeah.
Are you saying they use plates from Nashville?
They use plates in the background for the city background.
Wow, did not know. Me
either. I got to go back through and see that again.
Go check it out.
I did not know that.
You can actually read KDF.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I love that movie. And another one that did it for me was Shawshank Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, like that just tore me up and down. Like from the beginning to the very end, like it just takes you through this emotional roller coaster with this. Just so spectacular.
Perfect movie.
Yep, perfect.
Perfect movie. I had the same situation with the movie called Road to Perdition.
Oh, I love that one. Yep, Conrad Hall, right? He was the DP on that.
Yes, got the Academy Award for it posthumously.
Yeah.
And the cinematography was what I saw it at the old Ziegfeld, which is no longer in New York, but it used to be the cathedral of movies for all of New York City. And walked out of there, matinee, only about a dozen people in the seats of a 2,500 seat theater. And everybody was just talking about shots, like when, I mean, there's so many, but the way that it was photographed and it was, I wasn't a father yet, but it's got to be one of the best father and son movies ever made. And now the son, I'm just like, we showed it to him and I get all weepy.
Oh yeah. You can't not. And I mean that scene in the street when at night when it's raining and he's pulled up and the lighting is just like one big key light from behind that kind of lights everything, and it's just so powerful. It's all silhouette. Like 90% of that scene is just silhouette, and it's like, oh my gosh, and I get goosebumps just thinking about it. It's so powerful. Yep. And like every filmmaker wants to, why do you even start doing it? Because of that. And it's like, you remember, for me, it was Indiana Jones. It was everything that was Spielberg growing up, like E.T., like Star Wars, all of those. That's like when my very first film was Star Wars, the first one that I ever went to. My mom said I screamed the entire time and she had to take me out in the hallway, but I was there.
The monster was born.
Yep.
The monster was born. And I remember the first film I did was in junior high. It was a short film called The Serial Killer. And this guy went around with people, they were killing people with Cheerios. And when they'd find them, their mouth was filled with Cheerios. And they're like, we have a serial killer.
Yeah. Imagine if you had a budget, you could do what you could do with that idea now.
With the serial killer. And it'd be like, you know what? I don't laugh at anything anymore as an idea is absurd, because someone pitched Sharknado and they're like, yes, we will give you a budget for this. And there will be 7 of them.
Yeah, right. Incredible. Oh, man.
I'm like, if you can imagine being at that pitch meeting, okay, so there's like this guy, and it's like, okay, this girl, and it's like there's Stormy, and and there's a tornado, and in it there's sharks that eat people.
Yeah.
So they're like, we love it.
We love it. Yeah.
Do it. So you never know.
Yeah.
Well, man, I think we've been cranking on this episode. I think we burned over, but we're really excited having you on. Thanks so much for sharing those pieces, and we'd love to have you back at some point, maybe for things that you've been working on in the future, something you cover or learn. But I think
where can people reach you?
Yeah, where's a good place to find it? What are you excited? What are you working on now? What can they see?
My website, adamrichardjones.com. I keep it pretty up to date. I'm working next. I'm working with the same guys that I did my short film with on another dark comedic idea about a guy who gets sold wet firewood and goes crazy.
About wet firewood is terrible.
When they say it's seasoned and it's wet and they sell it to you after you stacked it.
Yep, and tried to cut it.
Oh,
yep.
Man, that's enough to make you want to kill someone.
Especially in the middle of winter.
Kind of reminds me of the movie Falling Down. Do you remember that?
Oh, great movie. Yeah, I remember that movie a lot. Yeah.
Oh.
You just had enough.
Amazing movie.
Yeah. That movie surprised you. Yeah.
This fast food looks nothing like the picture. Yes. It's great.
Oh, yeah. We can just sit here and talk about movies on episode 2.
Next episode 2. We have another one. I got another friend of mine. He's a VFX guy that's coming back. And the first time we just talked like we did. And then this time we're actually going to break down a couple of the shots that he did.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. He recently worked on one that was a music video this is amazing, using deep fake. They went through this Eric Church. They went back through all of his old music videos. They took they scanned his face for everything.
They reverse deep faked.
Yeah. So that the new music video is him singing his songs using all of his old music videos. So it's actually, and if you see his face, it looks like he's really singing it. It's like from 1998 to 2002, and they cut.
Are they literally tracking the face on? Is it, or is there like, for some reason when I see the deep fakes, I'm like, is there some kind of plug-in that's making that like consumer friendly now?
It's a mix of both. That's what his episode. Yeah. So we're going to talk about it, go over like, what did you do? How did you track this? So he said they went through archival footage. They went through all the documentaries, and the AI scans the face. So they run the videos through all of those, all of the AI, which scans the face. And then based upon that, they take the new footage that's in there and they track, I think they track different elements that the computer does pretty well, and then they go in and add and tweak the places where it's not. And then, so I think they use 3 or 4 different techniques to get this particular piece right, to do this whole music video. Mm-hmm. And And so he's going to actually go over and show us how they did it step by step with the thing. So maybe it'd be great to have you on a little bit later where we can focus on a couple of things like, hey, these are some things that we did in these commercials. How do we do them? That could be really fun to do, like a breakdown of like,
yeah.
how
That'd
we
be
did
great.
it. So
That'd be great. Yeah.
awesome. Let's do that then. Maybe we could schedule for maybe a couple months from now after Super Bowl, after everything's done, and then have you on. And if you want to pick a few things, like, could just say, like, hey, these 3 or 4 things I really love. Let's look at some of these, because that'd be really fun. We'd really love that. Okay, Adam, that'd be great, man. Well, Kim, do you want to do a wrap up, and then we can.
Sure. Let's see here.
Good, I love it, and
Isn't that
we'll
great?
talk to you later.
We're sending people now to watch.entertainmentdudes.com. There you can find everything Entertainment Dudes, whether it's on Spotify, whether it's on YouTube. Merch.entertainmentdudes.com.
Yes, if you want a shirt with
there.
my face on it, which you probably do, I mean, you're going to be like, yes, I want this.
This is the Jason shirt, but all kinds of fun entertainment gear is there on merch.entertainmentdudes.com. And let's see here. We have got some great guests coming up, including great charity. Hold on. I just messed that one up.
Cam, gosh.
I know.
Take 75.
Still rolling.
Yeah. Still rolling. Waiting on camera.
Okay.
Cam, waiting on camera.
Merch.entertainmentdudes.com. And also catch the Entertainment Dudes us on Clubhouse with Liz Atherton. So we'll be guests on her show on Clubhouse.
And she's much better than we are, too.
Previous agent Liz Atherton, but now she runs Cast Voices, and we're looking forward to that on Clubhouse. So this has been Entertainment Dudes.
Signing off. Peace.
Signing off. We'll see you guys later. Bye.
Entertainment Dudes.